Hey, I'm Kai, and in this video I'm going to be checking out a budget 7-string guitar from Spira Guitars. The first thing I'd like to mention is that this is not a sponsored video. I reached out to Spira myself after a few people had asked me for my opinions on them. They sent me out this one as a loaner unit and I'm not getting paid for this demo. In case you're unaware of who Spira Guitars are, they are the more metal sister brand to Jet Guitars, who you may be familiar with. Jet Guitars have been gaining in popularity a lot recently for having really high quality instruments at budget price points. While Jet take their inspiration from more classic things like Stratocasters, Jazzmasters and Telecasters, Spira go for more metal offerings, such as this Ibanez RG looking thing, as well as Vs and Explorers. So as you can probably tell from the looks of this guitar, this is spec'd out to be a no-nonsense metal ripper. It's a 7-string dual humbucker guitar with 24 frets and a hardtail bridge. We have a roasted poplar body, a roasted maple neck, and an ebony tech fretboard. All of the materials used are strengthened or stabilized in some way, meaning that it should be more resilient to things like temperature and humidity shifts. This in theory should mean that your guitar plays as well in winter as it does in summer without needing a setup in between. While we don't have any branded hardware on this guitar, we do have Spira own brand locking tuners, we have high output ceramic pickups, as well as this flat style hardtail bridge. Also, the nut says it's artificial bone, so I'm guessing they're going for the same kind of thing as a Graphtec nut would be. I think that the 26.5-inch scale length is the perfect spot for a budget 7-string. Longer baritone scale lengths can get pretty uncomfortable, especially if you're a beginner, but the shorter scale lengths don't handle the low string too well. This guitar has a 14-inch fretboard radius, which means that it's fairly flat but not completely flat. Again, this is generally just a great spot to be in. It's flat enough that you can get a super low action going on, but round enough that it still feels comfortable. Now, I would have liked to have seen stainless steel frets on this one and a hipshot style hardtail bridge rather than this flat strap mount. Stainless steel frets is kind of a hype spec at the minute, but it does have some real benefits to it. It feels a lot glassier under the hands because you can polish it to a much shinier finish. They're also not as prone to being scratched, dented, and all that sort of stuff as nickel frets are, so these will probably have to be crowned after every 5 to 10 years or so. As for my woes with this bridge, they don't always feel the best under the hand. I like having the comfort carve of the edge of a hipshot bridge, for instance, because I don't like feeling the edge of the saddle against my palm especially. This doesn't matter too much for things like classic strats because not as many people are going to be palm muting, but for a 7-string guitar, everyone's going to be palm muting on this. It also kind of cheapens the look of an otherwise stellar looking guitar. Now, I should also mention the price of this guitar. This is currently £319 here in the UK. To curb down on some of the yapping, we'll get into the tones now and then we'll talk about the QC afterwards. For all of the sounds in this demo, I'm running the Spira out to my EVH 5153, then into the Sur reactive load box and out to my DAW, where I'm loading up the ML Soundlab Miko 2 plugin. I'll start with a chunky metal tone because I'm sure that's what everyone's here for, but I will work my way back through the gain stages from there. This is the red channel of the 5153 with no boost up front, no gate, nothing, just the raw amp tone. I ought to mention this guitar is currently tuned down to drop A, and for the pickup configuration we have a single volume knob, a tone knob, and a 3-way blade switch, so no coil splits here. I'll back everything off to a nice clean tone next. This amp doesn't go super clean, but this is the green channel with the UA Effects Heavenly plate on it. I'll also sweep through the pickup positions here so that you can hear the differences. Now we'll just hear that middle position because I feel like that's where this sits best for clean tones. I don't feel like clean tones are this guitar's forte, but we'll also try an ambient tone and just stack a bunch of effects on this. I'm sure some people are going to be curious as to how well this guitar takes to a classic rock crunch sort of thing, so we'll head over to the blue channel of the 5153 and dial it in for a low gain-ish kind of thing. Sticking with this as our bass tone though, I'll throw on one of my favourite pedals of all time, the Holy Island Audio Tides. This is an all-in-one instant post-rock generator sort of thing. I've also got the UA Effects Heavenly Plate back on in the effects loop just to fill the sound out a little bit. Let's go right back to modern metal tones now. We'll stick with this blue channel on the 5153, but we'll raise the gain up a fair amount. We're going to go for something a lot tighter this time, so we'll boost it with the Guptec Mad Shoe, and we'll also engage the 14 Zool noise gate. Overall, I think the tones of this guitar are okay. I think a lot of the issue I was facing is because this low string isn't optimized for the low A that I've tuned it down to. I do think the clean tones were particularly lacking though, but that may also just be the rig that I've got set up for today. So since this is a loaner unit, I'm not sure whether it's brand new, B-stock, or whether someone else has got their hands on it before me. I'll still give it a once over for the quality control so that you know what I'm working with here. For what it's worth though, I did speak to a few Spira guitars owners prior to making this video because I wanted to get a sort of general consensus on them first, and everyone said theirs was absolutely fantastic. Let's dig into this one though. I think the first thing I want to mention is that the finish looks absolutely fantastic. On the website it looks kind of dark, but on camera you can see that the wine red really just shines through. I also love that you can see the wood grain through it, especially on the back if we go to the B cam here. I will say it's the kind of matte finish that really picks up fingerprints though, so just be aware of that before you buy this guitar. I'm not sure whether this was a factory setup when I got it. The only thing to note was that the action was a touch inconsistent, with some strings being higher than others. Nothing that was super noticeable when I was playing it though, just something I picked up on when I was looking it over. I actually did go in and lower the action so that I could get this one down super low and just see if any issues in the fretwork arose. I got it down to about 1mm on the high string and maybe 1.75mm on the low string, and then just, staggered between them, and I didn't notice any bad frets whatsoever. The fretwork is absolutely immaculate here. The tops are all nicely leveled, nicely crowned, nicely polished. It just feels really, really great to play on. The fret edges do feel a little bit sharp when you're playing, but there's nothing that's going to cut your hands up or anything like that. There are a few other little uncomfortable areas that I would like to mention, and the main one being this strap button on the back of the guitar. This has been constantly digging into my ribcage the whole time I've been playing, just generally not super pleasant. I would have preferred this to be on the top of the horn instead. There's also a sharp corner right on the edge of the nut that I kept catching myself on, especially when I did the riffs that would go from 12 right down to 1. If I owned this guitar, I would definitely be taking a file to this one and just knocking off the corner ever so slightly. This is nothing new to me though. I've had to do this with so many guitars now that it's just part of the process. Thankfully, with the bridge, they've gone for the rounded off saddle design rather than the sharp corners that I had with the Schecter KM7, for instance, but I still would have preferred to have a full bracket over it and a nice comfy thing to rest my hand on. Unfortunately, I do have to say that I'm really not a fan of these stock tuners. This is definitely the biggest weak point of the guitar. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this on the B cam, but they are super hard to turn, just takes an awful lot of effort, and then suddenly they'll slip. They generally just waver between being super tight and then super loose, and it's not a great experience. Overall though, I do think I am very impressed with the quality of this guitar. The playing experience is fantastic, and that's probably the most important factor. Let's now wrap up into a conclusion and my overall thoughts on this guitar, and I should once again mention that this is not sponsored in any way. I think the pickups are completely passable for most people, and I think they know that a lot of people are going to be grabbing these and swapping the pickups out, so they went for something run-of-the-mill, maybe a little bit generic. They're not amazing for clean tones and there's no coil split, but if you're doing anything chuggy like you probably will be doing on a 7-string guitar, they work brilliantly. Now, I had the Schecter KM7 on the channel recently, and this does beat it in quite a few areas. Funnily, the tuners are about equal. I think these are pretty much on par with the stock Schecter tuners that I had to rip out and replace. The pickups on the Schecter were obviously an awful lot better though. It had the Seymour Duncan Nazgul Sentient pickup set, which are just some of my absolute favourite pickups of all time. This Spira has a soft D-shaped neck, and I don't know how much of that I can get across on the B cam, but it's not super flat. It still feels thin though, and that's what I really like about this. The quality in general is pretty great here. I think I'd probably spend 5 minutes just knocking off the sharp fret edges and the sharp bit of the nut, and then the only thing I'd really have to worry about is the tuners. I think ideally I'd want to move the strap button over to the top horn, but that's quite a big undertaking, so I think I'd rather just get a thick strap for this. The guitar doesn't actually have any quality control issues, so to speak. I think this is about the best it will get off of the factory line. So that is everything that I've got for this video. Thank you ever so much for sticking around to the end. I do really appreciate it. If you did enjoy this one, please drop a comment down below. In the description box down below, you will find my affiliate link for Thomann, which I try to keep updated with all of the gear that I'm currently using. Until next time though, I've been Kai.